Hi, everybody. Welcome. If you're coming in, we'll get started here in just a little bit.
Hello.
Hi there. I'm going to mute everybody when you come in just so we don't have a lot of feedback.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get started here in just 1 minute. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure some other people will come join us as we come in or as we get started. If you want to share your camera, feel free to. I am going to ask everybody to mute themselves if you're not already, just so that we don't have a lot of feedback, because I am going to record this to make sure that everybody can watch it who wasn't able to attend live. Let's just make sure everybody's muted. Okay, I think we are ready to go. Can you guys hear me okay? Excellent. All right, hi. So I'm gonna go ahead and, oops, Sandra, you're screen sharing. Let's get rid of that. I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see this. Okay, so everybody should be able to see the Zoom Masterclass, correct? Okay, great. All right, so welcome everyone. This is a Zoom Masterclass, a little quick and dirty how to use Zoom for telepractice, for online education, for healthcare, whatever you may be using it for, because I know a lot of people have started using Zoom and there's been some fears out there about, oh, are we gonna get Zoom bombed? Am I using the right security settings and so forth? So I wanted to go through some features with you to make sure that you're using it to the best of its ability. So to tell you just a little bit about myself and why you should listen to me and talk about Zoom, my name is Marissa Rushlow. I am an SLP and I'm the owner of Linguabilities, which is a private telepractice firm specializing in speech and psych and social work and all sorts of stuff that you can do online. I have worked in telepractice for the past 6 years, and I think 4 of those have been full-time. I started part-time, as many of us do. I'm also the author of several telepractice trainings, including several courses on Northern Speech Services, and then my own courses, Launch Your Telepractice Career Series, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. And then I use Zoom exclusively in my practice. So I'm very familiar with it. I know how to set it up so that you don't make some common mistakes. Okay, and just real quick to answer some quick questions. Yes, the presentation will be available for download. I will send out a recording link as well as the slides. So don't feel like you have to take crazy notes. For other questions, I'll at the end take a look and answer those. But for now, we're going to just walk through and see if I do answer your questions. So today we're going to cover the top 5 mistakes that people commonly make in Zoom. And just as a little heads up at the end, I'm going to give some opportunities for more training if you're interested in pursuing that. But this is, just a free resource for you guys to have because I think it's really important. So the first mistake that I see people make in using Zoom is using a Chromebook. The reason that this is such a problem is that it doesn't allow the interactivity between you and the client. I've never used one in my own practice, but I've seen it a lot happen where the client is using a Chromebook and then suddenly they don't have the ability to use the remote control, use the mouse. So if you're trying to get them to play boom cards with you, which are a really popular thing, suddenly that's not going to work. You can screen share all you want, but it's not going to do anything. So my little tip for this is to stay interactive. You want to make sure that you are using a laptop or a PC or a Mac or whatever, but don't use a Chromebook. And if your clients have to use something besides a laptop or a desktop computer, then I would even say an iPad is going to be better than a Chromebook, because at least on iPads they can touch. They may not be able to drag and drop, but they can click things. And the same goes for a phone. iPhones may be a little finicky about doing it, but usually it'll work. So stay away from Chromebooks if you can. Tip number 1. Mistake number 2 is using too many meetings. So I'm going to show you today how to set up your meetings for the easiest use. But one thing that I'll see people do is create meeting after meeting for individual kids and repeat the sessions, and you have this big laundry list of meetings that you have to click a new link every time, and it's just too much. It's confusing for the therapist or educator. It's confusing for the family. So I'll show you today how to stay simple and make sure that you have only as many meetings as you need. Mistake number 3 is having a busy background. So I'm not perfect with this. I've rotated my computer so that I'm no longer just up against a wall. But I decided that that was going to be worth it if I kept my background relatively clean. So you want to stay clear. You want to make sure that if you don't have a place that you can just have like a blank wall, that you at least look neat. It's not super distracting. You can see that I have my curtains pulled so that the light isn't hitting the back of my head and backlighting me. And worst case, you can always use a virtual background. So I'll show you that when we get into Zoom, how you can use it. It's not the best. It's still a little finicky, but sometimes if you have like a big pile of laundry and you can't get rid of it right away, might be the way to go. Mistake number 4 is not troubleshooting tech. So we really do have to be like tech gurus in helping our families navigate through Zoom and problem solve some of the common things that will often go wrong. So you need to stay knowledgeable in how Zoom works. Today's little mini course will help you figure that out a lot better so that when the family comes in and maybe their audio is not working, you can walk them through that. But you really need to do your research on what all the tech does so that when these problems do come up, you can rely on yourself. Or worst case, you have at least like the phone number of Zoom available that you can call them. I think they're pretty booked right now, just trying to get through the number of people using it, but it's worth giving a call if you really get stuck, and that way you don't have to cancel a session. Mistake number 5 then is not using the security features. And this is going to be the bulk of what we talk about today because we want to stay safe. This is where people get Zoom bombed because they're not using your just basic security features. You don't have to have the HIPAA compliant version to stay safe from Zoom bombing. I definitely recommend it if you are able to afford it. I even tell people if you can go in with somebody else and split that cost. We'll go through some of the pricing today and talk about that, but we want to make sure that you're staying safe, that your students or your clients are staying safe, and then we don't have anything weird or gross pop up in our meetings because people that aren't supposed to be there are in the meetings. Okay. So today I'm going to show you how to set up your meetings cleanly, how to set up your security easily, and then quickly how to use Zoom. So I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second so I can reshare, and I will actually go into the Zoom website and show you how to set things up. All right, let's pull this up here. Oops, a little too big. Okay. So just to look at some of the pricing first, if you go to zoom.us/pricing, you can see what is available. Even on the free version, as I said, you can get a lot of good security features. You are going to have the same level of encryption on third-party endpoints as you will with any of the purchased plans. However, I would still really encourage you to get the HIPAA compliant if you can. I know people say HIPAA's been waived. It's not really been waived. It's that the HIPAA violations aren't being pursued right now. We don't know that that means they're not going to be pursued later, and we still want to hold ourselves to the best standard of practice that we can even during this crisis. So like I said, if you can split the cost with somebody, because you're essentially going to be buying at the business level. So it's 10 hosts, meaning people that are hosting the meeting, so 10 users at $20 a month each. So you have to pay $200 a month, but it gets you 10 users. So if you go in with 10 friends or 10 other people from your work, there you go. You're spending $20 a month instead of the $200. So it's not so bad. If you want to find the Zoom that's HIPAA compliant, you're going to go for Zoom for telehealth. And this will also cover you for FERPA. You will have to contact them because you're signing a BAA, which is a business associate agreement, which essentially says that Zoom is going to be responsible if there is any sort of leakage. So you're covered there if anything does happen. Like I said, it comes with the 10 people, so it's really not that expensive if you're with other people. Of course, $200 a month for just yourself is a little bit crazy. Okay, so when you sign up, this will be your profile. Obviously, yours will look a little bit different and maybe a little emptier just because you haven't had anything, you haven't input like a picture or things like that. But to create your meetings, you're going to come over here to personal and meetings. And this will work if you have the free version, if you have the paid version, doesn't matter. Yours will be empty here because you haven't created any meetings, but this is how I do it, where if I see this client, I'll see them every week. We use the exact same link every time. That way I don't have to send families a link every week. They go, oh, what is the link? It's the same link every time. And I don't have anything repeating. You can see that it says recurring. So I'm not going to have link after link after link after link for the same kid. I'll show you how to do that in setting up the meetings. I would recommend either setting up one link that you send to everybody and you just know the times that people are supposed to be there, and I'll show you how you can keep people in and out at certain times, or set it up for like a group or a class or one student or client at a time. But you don't have to do it so that there's like an individual meeting session for every single time you see an individual client. Okay, so we'll come schedule a new meeting. I'm just going to name it, let's say, Mrs. Rushlow's speech room. If I'm doing a group or I wanted to do one link for everybody, you could do this. You can put in a description if you want. And then this is how I set it up so that I don't have things repeat, repeat, repeat. I'm going to make it a recurring meeting, but instead of putting in the actual day and time and all of that, I'm simply going to say no fixed time. And suddenly it doesn't have any of that information to put in. The only downside of this is that when you copy your link invitation, which I'll show you, you do have to change that information because it just says no fixed time when you copy all of that information and send it to the family. So make sure that you change that in your email to say, okay, your time is 12 on Tuesday or whatever it might be. Okay, the meeting ID you can generate automatically. The password is an extra layer that you could use. I don't typically recommend it because it's a little burdensome for families and they get confused by it. You could though, and then if you really want to add like an extra layer, you can send the link for Zoom in one email and then the password in another email, or text it to them or call them and tell them what the password is, just so that in case somebody is getting into emails, which I find very unlikely, that they would be going into a random person's email to find a Zoom link and a password to get in there. You're covered if you do that. You're going to be fine though, even if you don't require a password. But if you check it, you can easily change it to whatever you want. You know, my last name, no one's going to guess that. Or you can leave it blank. Then in the video, I suggest that you have the participant's video turned on. And the reason is because if the family logs in and they don't have the video ready to go, then you have to walk them through how to turn it on. And it's not impossible, but it's just a little cumbersome. It's up to you if you want yours on or off. You're going to have to turn it on eventually, but I'll show you how to do that in the meeting. Then for audio, you're going to keep computer audio. And the only time that you would consider doing telephone or both is if you're the person hosting an IEP meeting or a meeting, and the parent or the client was calling in via phone. You know, I've had some meetings where like the parent is in between shifts at work and they're not able to log into the Zoom meeting, either using their phone or a computer. But if they want to call in, then you can give them a number and they can still connect to the Zoom meeting. Otherwise, if you're doing a session, you want to make sure you have computer audio. Some other miscellaneous meeting options. I don't suggest enabling join before host, because then people are waiting in the room before you're even there and you don't know who's in there, you know, in case somebody did get the link. I don't recommend muting people upon entry, because then you're going to have to figure out how to unmute them. But I do recommend enabling a waiting room. And this is what's going to guarantee that only the people that you want to let in get in. Even if somebody gets the link that they're not supposed to, if they even get the password that they're not supposed to, if you see somebody that is not your student, don't let them in. And then there's no way that they can Zoom bomb. One more feature that you may think about is doing authentication. I think this is really too cumbersome. If you're going to pick between password and authentication, do the password, because authentication requires that people have to sign into Zoom. And oftentimes that's not what people are doing. They're just clicking the link to use it. So that would not be my recommendation. Of the two, I would suggest the password if you want to. And then I don't suggest that you record it, because we often need permission to do that. So if you do get permission, you can record in Zoom anyway, like if you are doing an evaluation or an interview. Unfortunately, though, if you want to record anything, it only stops the recording at the end of the meeting. So it's not good for video modeling or feedback, but it's good for you if you're doing like an evaluation and you wanted to go back and look at that data. You could do that after the fact. Okay, we don't need to have an alternative host because we're the only host. However, if you were co-treating and you wanted to invite another therapist, this is where you could put them. So we'll save. And you can see it pops up as the saved meeting. If you come down to the bottom, you can do any edits that you need to. So all the stuff that we went through, you can edit it. And then it also has integrations into calendars, so you can easily add it to your calendar. If anybody asks what the meeting ID is, this is it, but it will also pop up in Zoom that you can see. And then this is the link that you're going to send to families. So you can either, you know, copy it as you would, or you can copy the full invitation and this will pop up. This is what I was talking about where it says, this is a recurring meet anytime meeting. You're going to have to change that in your email for whatever their time is. But it'll give them the link, it'll give them the meeting ID. They shouldn't have to use the meeting ID, but sometimes Zoom is weird and it will ask them for it. So just a little heads up there. Copy it and put it into your email. Okay, so that's setting up your meeting. And if we go back to the meetings, you can see that it's now in my list. I can either start it just by clicking here, start, or I can come into the meeting and start it from here. So that's how I would set it up if you have like a group or you just want one single link. Otherwise, go ahead and create it for each individual group or client, but just make sure that it's recurring all the time so that you don't have you know, JJ listed 50 times, because it's going to show you every single Tuesday that you're going to meet. You'll have another link for it, which is just unnecessary. Okay, so that's setting up your meetings cleanly. Let's look at how to set up your security features. So for this, you're going to go to Settings. And we're just going to go through the meeting part because that's really the meat and potatoes of where you have your security features. A lot of these things are what we looked at already, but they're just changing the default. So like if you wanted to have your video always on, you could change it so that you don't have to adjust it every time you have a new meeting. Same thing with the participant video, the audio type. We talked about not joining before the host and why that's important. I don't really mess with any of the personal meeting IDs. We talked about authentication, how that's just a little extra unnecessary step. If you want to automatically set it so that you have passwords required for either scheduling or your instant meetings, you can do that. And automatically it'll set it. If you do have a password, it will include it in all of the invitation information. You can also change if you want people to have passwords by phone, if you're going to mute your participants upon entry. And then here's where we get into some really good security features. You definitely want this one. This is the biggest thing I can recommend to you, is to have the encryption for third-party endpoints. That's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, we're not being even close to HIPAA and FERPA compliant. Right now we have chat on. And I like to keep chat on for my kids, especially the ones that are a little more shy, because sometimes as they're transitioning into teletherapy, especially if they're like little shy kids, they get a little nervous about being recorded. And sometimes that's how I can get them to engage with me. Now, I still want their sound on, but if that's how they're engaging and that's the level that they're at, I'll take that for now. But if you're worried about, okay, somebody did get into my meeting room and they're saying racial slurs, you can just turn the chat off and then nobody has that feature. There's some other features for chat that aren't super important. You can play a sound when people join or leave. I turn that off just so that we don't have bing, bing, bing coming up. Another thing you can turn off is file transfer. And so then people can't be sending any sort of files to each other. Again, if somebody were able to get into the room, they can't send like a virus that anybody can click on. If you're co-treating with anybody, you might want the option to have a co-host. And what that allows you to do is I could pick right now, okay, Casey's going to be my co-host, and I will give her access to host the meeting, and then she would have all of the features of being a host that I do right now. Let's see, you definitely want to have screen sharing enabled. That's really important. And I like to do it so that all participants can screen share, but if you want just one more level of assurity that nobody's going to share anything weird, you can make it just yourself that can screen share. And so the reason that I like to have it for all participants is sometimes I like to see what they're doing on their end. Like if they're working on a worksheet, you know, in Google Classroom, and you want to see their version that they're working on their computer, then you could have them screen share. Otherwise, you can just screen share on your computer and have them work on the PDF or the Word document that way. I do like to set it though that the host is the only person, me is the only person who can start sharing when somebody else is. So I override if anybody else is sharing. Okay, annotation and the whiteboard and remote control are a must. These are what are going to give you the interactivity that you need. And we talked about like when Chromebooks don't do that, you can still screen share. They can see everything that you would share. They just can't annotate or use the remote control, even if you have it enabled. A lot of these others are not, they're just little add-ons that aren't tremendously important. You may set it, if you do have the breakout room, this is, I think, only in paid ones, you may set it so that it doesn't do that. That way, you're the only person who can create a breakout room. It's really more for meetings if you want to make smaller meetings within a big one, but that may be something you might want to consider. You also can add closed captioning, and I've tried it out. It's actually pretty good. It does it in real time, so that's nice. One other thing I like to do is have far end camera control, which allows me to take control of the client's camera. I haven't actually gotten it to work, But theoretically, what you can do is like turn it on and off. And if it has like movability, you could move it around. You can go ahead and set it to do HD video. And if it's able to, with the bandwidth, it will have a higher quality video. You can automatically set it so that you can use a virtual background, and I'll show you how to do that once we get into the Zoom program. You definitely want to identify guest participants, so they'll have to put in their name, and that's how you can see, oh, okay, it's my student, this is their name, it's not just like Joe Schmo. Okay, the biggest piece though, to make sure that nobody gets in except for who you want, is the waiting room. So I didn't do that on this meeting today intentionally. You were just able to get in right away without me having to admit you, because I didn't want to have to admit 100 people. But in your sessions, this is essentially the gate to keep anybody out except who you need. And then I make sure that all participants are placed in the waiting room. So that way, if you're using one room for all your clients, then all you have to do is see, oh, Johnny's here, but he's 5 minutes early and I'm still with Susie. Okay, he's just going to stay in the waiting room until I'm ready. Then I can remove Susie when we're done with her session and then let Johnny in. So you can time it appropriately so that people come in when you want them to. And if you see a name that you don't recognize, just don't let them in, and then nobody can do anything. Okay, those are the big pieces that I think are really important. This other stuff are just settings that you might play around with, but nothing really security-wise. So we've talked about then how to set up your security easily. If you follow those things of using a waiting room, possibly using a password, having your third party or your third endpoint encryption, and making sure that you only send the link to the people that you intend to, you're going to be in good shape. There's no reason that you should ever get Zoom bombed. I've never, ever, ever had it happen. And Zoom has even increased some of their security features with the encryption even more. So you should be in good shape. Okay, let's take a look then. The next piece that I want to do is how to actually use Zoom. And so unfortunately, I'm going to have to share a video that I pre-recorded because I can't screen share the Zoom application. Like right now I have toolbars and everything up that just you guys can't see. And so I'm going to show you the video because I captured my screen earlier so that you can actually see all the features that I'm going through. Thank you guys too for your questions. I will get to these at the end and make sure that I answer all of these. I want to make sure I get through all three of my pieces, and then I will answer any questions you might have. Okay, let's make this a little bigger for you guys. Please let me know if you can't hear this for some reason. I'm going to share it so that you have sound, but sometimes you just got to make sure it actually works. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're ready to start in the program. I simply started a meeting that I had already created. Can you guys hear it okay, or is it too quiet? A little bit more? Okay. All right, give me a thumbs up if this is okay. It'll tell you what the meeting topic is, who's hosting, and if you need that URL again to send to families, you can copy it here, and it will take it to your clipboard so that you can enter it into your email. So if families say, oh no, what was the link again? We deleted that email. Here, you can come get it. Similarly, at the bottom, you can invite. Bring this over so you can see it. You can either copy the URL or copy the invitation and then bring it into your email. If you don't end up using one of these, you can simply take it over to your email and copy what was put on the clipboard. So this is what it looks like as you're waiting for people to arrive. You can tell that you are the only person here because it has a little 1 by the managed participants. If you click it and unclick it, you can actually see the list of people. So I'm the only one. It also identifies me as the host. The way that I have mine set up to start is that I'm muted and my video is off. So all you do is click and unclick these to let them pop up. I look a hot mess today, so I'm not actually going to pull my video up, but that's where it would pop up if you and another person shared your videos. If you want to adjust your speakers and your microphone, you push this little up arrow. So you can see all the different microphones that I have available, and this is what Zoom is going to use. So I'm actually using this mic right now for recording this video, but I typically have it set so that my webcam mic is better than my headset mic. But I like the sound to come through on the speakers to my headset. You could also put it on your regular computer. And if you're having any trouble, you can test your speaker and microphone. So I don't have my headset on right now, but if I change it, hear that little ringtone. Let's do a test. Shows that the microphone is working. So that's how you can test that. You may need to walk families through it. If for some reason their audio isn't connected, you can help them that way. You typically don't have to go into audio settings, just the part of the microphone, speaker, and testing. Similarly, with the up arrow, you can choose your camera. I've only got one camera connected to this computer, but if you were using a laptop that had a built-in camera and you decided to upgrade your camera, you would have two there. Similarly, you can do video settings if you need to. And then this is the virtual background I was talking about. So in choosing a virtual background, let's see, you can come in here and have none, or you can choose, you know, like, oh, I'm going to be at the Golden Gate Bridge. They've also got video ones. So if you don't want your whole background of you there, that's okay. You can add these. Now they do get a little glitchy. You can see as I move, it doesn't keep up with me perfectly, but that's because it takes up some more bandwidth. So typically I don't, even though I've rotated my computer so that it has more things to look at behind me. Okay, so if your family, I'm actually going to log in on my other computer so that you can see what it looks like when somebody joins the room. So you can hear that little beep, and then it shows that I am logged in again, it's me. So that's why it didn't pop up to say admit into room, but typically it would right here, it would say this person is here and you need to admit them. So the only reason it didn't is because I was logging in. If it was anybody else who didn't have that account, they would have to be admitted. Let's go ahead and share the video just to show you what it looks like. So the other person on my other computer does not have their video or camera up. I am muted right now, but I do have my camera up. So if you see this, you can unmute their audio. And on my other screen, it says the host would like you to unmute your audio. And so I can click that. We'll get some terrible reverb there because we're on the same microphone, but that's how you get them to unmute. And then you can also ask them to start video, and another pop-up will appear on their screen that says start video. So if it looks like this or it just has their name, that's what you need to do to get their audio and video up. Because right now, if I gave them any instructions, they might not be able to hear me. They might be connected to audio, but they might also be just muted. So if that is the case, I will just hold up like a little post-it note, you know, click join audio in the bottom left. I also will use the chat feature, which is right here, so that I can chat to them and say, make sure to turn on computer audio. And then it will appear on my other screen that's what they need to do. Okay, so we've gone through the microphone, we've gone through the video, we've gone through inviting. You can manage your participants. Let's say for some reason, like I said, if you have the waiting room enabled and you have encryption, this shouldn't be an issue. But if somebody gets in that shouldn't be, just click on this manage participants. So when this pops up here, you can see the people. You can also decide to, because I'm a co-host, it's going to give me co-host participation, but there will be a thing here that says remove. For anybody that is not yourself in a video or in a Zoom room. So you can do all the same features that we did by right-clicking on their picture, you know, if you need to ask them to start video, or you can mute them and unmute them as well. But there will be one more thing that says remove if it is anybody but yourself. Okay, the big piece that you're going to want is the screen share. So if we pull this up, this is what it looks like. You can share your entire screen, and it won't show everything because I just have a portion of my screen for recording right now, but it would show you the entire desktop. You can see kind of a little mini version of what it would show. There's good and bad for this. You know, if you want to have your desktop background as like a conversation piece, that's kind of cool. But if you don't want them to see the clock down in the bottom right and all the things you have in your desktop over here, or even be tempted to come into the start menu toolbar, what I would do instead is look at an individual program. So just to show you a folder, actually we'll pull up Chrome. So what we were looking at before will come up just as the Chrome window. So it shouldn't show to the other person any of this on the outside. Now we will see it, but they will only see the Zoom window. Then you can stop sharing and it'll come back to this. You can reshare to share other programs that you might have, or to come to your entire screen. Another feature that's nice is the whiteboard. Oh, one thing I should mention, you also want to share computer sound. So that way the sound that's coming into the computer will come into theirs without it having to go through your microphone. So let's say that you had a game on this website. Instead of your microphone having to pick up the sound through your speakers, it will just automatically do it through the computer. So this is the best way to do that. Okay, so we're going to share the whiteboard. Bring this over here so we can see it. Again, they will only see the whiteboard. And then some tools that are helpful to look at here. We'll look at both toolbars. Your toolbar that you have for Zoom in general will still be there. It does like to disappear, but if you hover over it, it will come back. And then an annotation toolbar appears only when you either have the whiteboard up or you choose this little annotation tool. I'll pull up a PDF and show you how that works there. But essentially it's going to be the same thing. You can decide to type different things. You can draw. Okay, I want this little doodle. I want to change colors. Maybe I want a little stamp so that we can play tic-tac-toe. You can also spotlight. So if you want to draw their attention to something, you can use that little spotlight feature or a little arrow. And then you can erase individually, which I really like. That's a feature that Zoom has that some others don't, where you just have to clear your entire screen. Now you can, if you come over here to clear all drawings, or you can clear by the person, you'll get rid of everything. So that's pretty nice. You don't have to use it in the whiteboard though. You can use it in like a PDF. So let me pull up a PDF here to show you. Okay, so I've got my PDF and now I'm going to share it so that the other version of me, Mirror Marissa, can see it. You'll click the PDF application and that'll pop up, so that's all they see. They don't see this stuff behind us. They just see black and this. So you can annotate in here, and how you do that is come up to your toolbar, click annotate, and then your little annotation toolbar will pop up. So if you wanted to draw on your PDF, you can, and this is how you could fill it out. So you can actually write, GoToMeeting may have just updated this, that you can now type things. Before you just had to get really good at writing with your mouse MS Paint style, so this is nice. So that's a way that you can annotate on PDF so that you can complete documents together. Of course, you can always pull up a Word document and type in there. If you want to give them control of it, I'll show you how that works. So next to annotate is this little mouse that says remote control. Somebody has to be connected into the session for this to pop up, so that's why I connected myself. So you'll see who your other options are. You can give mouse control to the other person. It'll say waiting for them to control your screen until they actually move it. And then I'm going to go on my other computer and show you what it looks like when I move the mouse, if it'll let us do it here. There we go. So I'm moving it on my other computer. You can see it says that I'm now controlling the screen. You can always, of course, take away that feature by coming back up here to stop share. That's usually the quickest way, and then boom, it's just done. There's no more screen sharing, there's no more mouse control. They can control anything that's on the screen though. So that might be another good reason to do an application share versus an entire screen share, because if you don't want them to have access to your toolbar and task menu and all that stuff, then they don't have access to that. They just have access to the application. So something to consider. Okay, the last thing in screen sharing is the iPhone iPad mirroring. It's been very glitchy lately and I can't get it to work, but definitely try it out. You're going to click on this and have your iPad ready. And let's see if I can make this not full screen. You may not be able to see it, but it says on your iPhone or iPad, you're going to connect to the same Wi-Fi network and then pull up screen mirroring. So if you need more information about this, contact me. I've got a YouTube video about how to share your iPad. If it's not working with Zoom, there are other ways to do it, but that's the way that you do it. You screen share through your iPad once you've connected it to Zoom. Okay, you also have chat, which we looked at if you need to send them some instructions. Some kids really like to use the chat, especially if they're shy. So if you get a chat, a little thing will pop up here. You also can choose to record even if you haven't set it up in your meeting settings. You remember when we saw, oh, do I want to set up automatically to record? That will just start it recording at the beginning. If you forget and you do have permission to record, this is where you can click it. Now, like I said, it only will record, or it will stop recording when you stop the meeting. So you can't use it for like video modeling to show back to a client what they did, but it's better for like evaluations or interviews. If you want to have that information for yourself, you can go back and look at it later. You may also see breakout rooms, which is really more for webinars and meetings that you have. So if you want to make small groups within one large meeting, and sometimes it'll pop up with reactions, and it's just a little thing to put like a smiley face or a thumbs up. And then when you're done, you end the meeting. That will close it for everybody, so they don't have to do anything. And you're done. So that's essentially Zoom. I hope that that was helpful in showing you how to get started, how to screen share, how to share remote control. If you still have additional questions, let me know. I'm happy to help walk you through. I think Zoom definitely is one of the better options that you can pick. I'm a little biased because I really like it, but I've tried a bunch of others like GoToMeeting and Blink and Google Hangouts, and so far it just seems to be the best. So like I said, I would definitely encourage you to get the signed BAA to make sure that you're HIPAA and FERPA compliant, even if you're splitting that cost with somebody else, just to cover yourself, you know. But there are things that you can do even in the free version to make sure that you're not going to get Zoom bombed. Be safe, have fun. Hope you guys are doing okay. Okay, so that's how to use Zoom. Let's pull back up our little presentation for today. Okay, so we went through how to set up your meetings, how to set up your security features, and then how to actually use the program of Zoom. I see some questions that have come in, and I will answer those as we get to the end here, just to make sure that everybody's got the information that they need. So if you are inclined to learn more, there are more resources out there. I know this was just kind of a quick thing, and it's not going to cover every single aspect of telepractice. And so to help to that end, I've created a couple of mini courses. The three that we now have available are telepractice and AAC. My friend Casey Barron is an AAC expert and helped me create this. So we have the most evidence-based practice that we can in there, and it shows you how you actually implement AAC instead of just this theoretical idea. We also have one on telepractice and early intervention so that you can learn a little bit more than when people say it's parent coaching. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does that actually look like? And then we have one on telepractice assessment, because I get that question a lot. How do we actually do an online evaluation? What materials do we use? Where do we find them? How much do they cost? And all of that. So those are the three mini courses that are available right now, but they are only going to be available for a limited time. I am selling them through the 17th only, and then I'm shutting it down. But I wanted to give you guys first access to it and let you know about it. And also because you attended today, I wanted to give you A special offer, if you do buy 2 courses, you can get the 3rd one for free. So use the code 25 off. Don't feel like you have to write all this down because I'm going to show you the link next. I will send this out to everybody so that they have that they can just click it. This is the link that you're going to get. This offer will end on Sunday. So the courses will be available through the 17th, but the $25 off is only good through the 12th on Sunday. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check it out. Let me go through now the questions that we have. This is my email address, so feel free to email me. I'm also going to send this out in another email so that you don't have to write everything down. Let me see what questions you guys have, and I'm happy to answer those. Okay, yes, the presentation will be available to download. I'm going to send a recording link as well as the actual slides. How do you get rid of your screen background apps when you share your screen? To do that, that would be sharing by application rather than sharing the entire screen. So what I showed you, when you screen share that little green icon, instead of picking the very first one, you're going to pick whatever application you actually want to show. So just the PDF or just the internet window or whatever. As far as a therapist using an iPad, you can. I would say just in a pinch, though. Same thing for Chromebooks. I've never used them because I wanted to make sure that I had full functionality. What I'm not positive is if you use an iPad or a Chromebook, if it gets rid of remote control altogether. So you might try that out just as a test one, have somebody else connect with you and see if that happens, because we know it happens on the client's end. If they're using the iPad or Chromebook, there's some limited functionality. But you could definitely, if it's just like a talk session, there's no reason that you couldn't do that. Someone asked, is there a concern that the link and password could be stolen and sold on the deep web? Not that I have ever heard of. I mean, it's theoretically possible, but I've never heard of it happening. Like I said, I have never had anybody ever get into my sessions and do anything weird. So I've never had anybody get in and not do anything weird either. It's just the people that I want in there. So I don't think that if you used a different meeting ID that would change anything. If you really, really, really want to be careful, then you can email the link separately from your password, or just have the family, you can text them the link and then they have it and they can bring it up on their computer. So there's different ways that you can try to get them the link without sharing a ton of information. Okay, somebody asks about a high school student with pragmatic problems. Yes, you can videotape and record the session. Like I said, though, it will just stop the recording at the end of the session. So you can't do video modeling with it, but you could send the family that recording if you wanted to, or you could keep it for yourself. Just make sure that you have permission to do that. Someone also asked, what is a Zoom bomb? This is the new phrase. Zoom bomb is what the media is sensationalizing as when people are coming into your Zoom room and doing weird things like showing pornography, saying racial slurs, anything like that. So the security features that we went through today will prevent that from ever happening. Someone asked how to present worksheets in Zoom or other videos. I hope that was made clear in the screen sharing part of the video. If not, just email me and I'll help walk you through it. Someone asked about TheraPlatform. I haven't used it. I've heard some people say that they really like it. Some of the ones that are good for speech specifically are Blink and TheraPlatform. I've heard pretty good things about those two. Some of the other ones can be a little dicey. I've even heard that Blink, like the billing part and the scheduling part is really good, but it's just a little inconsistent on the video conferencing side. And they've gotten so many people all at once that's part of why it's not as well supported, because they just didn't have like the manpower for the number of people that were going to sign up with COVID. So I'm not saying it's bad. I prefer Zoom, but definitely try it out, especially if there's a free trial. I will send you my email address. If you don't write it down now, I will send it to you so that you can ask questions. Let's see. I don't use a dual monitor. I used to. Now I just have one really big one that's like the size of my desk. So if you do use a dual monitor, you can set it up so that it shares just that monitor and it shares that entire screen. And that's what I used to do. I would have all of my stuff for the kids, the PDFs and the websites up on that one. And then I'd have my webcam and the Zoom window over here so that I could see them. So that's definitely an option. I've never used my iPad as one monitor, but you potentially could. You would just have to be able to mirror it and screen share that way. If you email me, we can do some thinking on how to make that work. If you're not getting the video as an option for virtual background, it may just be that your computer isn't set up to do it. I know some computers, some people have had trouble where it's just not even an option to do that. So it may be that your computer is just not robust enough. If you couldn't give remote control on an iPad today, are you positive they were on an iPad? They were. Interesting. Because usually iPhones will be a little finicky about it, but iPads, you could at least give clickability.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know. If it continues, let me know, because I haven't had that issue before.
Yeah, I will. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's see. So somebody talks about the whiteboard, that you should be able to use it when we share the screen, but you don't see that option. Interesting. I've never heard of anybody not having the whiteboard. If you don't have it, it's not a deal breaker. In fact, it's not my favorite way to use a whiteboard. You might go to a website like Miro, and then you have a digital whiteboard on a website, and then you could do it that way. Best setting to have on the iPad when you're getting ready to share it. No, you definitely don't want it on airplane mode. If you are doing it through Zoom, you're connecting through the same Wi-Fi. If you do it through the other way that I know how to do it, which is buying a piece of software called Air Server for like 20 or 30 bucks, then you're using Bluetooth. So it just kind of depends on how you're connecting, if you want to use Bluetooth or your Wi-Fi. I have not used DoxyMe simply because all it lets you do is the talking. You can't screen share, you can't give interactivity, and so that's a deal breaker for me. If you're only doing talk therapy, could be fine. And the last question here is having a lot of problems doing screen mirroring with the iPad. It has been glitchy lately, yes. I would suggest, if you can't get it to work with Zoom, try it with Air Server. It's worth the like 20, 30 bucks just to make sure that it works. That's what I do. And it seems to share pretty decently there. Okay, wonderful. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me at my email address. I will also link the Air Server application there if you do want to go purchase that. I don't get a kickback or anything. I just think it's a good application. And I'm happy to answer any questions or jump on with you to Zoom to see if we can troubleshoot. I want to make sure that you guys are supported. So I hope this was helpful. Have a great rest of your night, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.